Hello there. Welcome back to Around the Grid. Today, we're getting started with yet another new team. After we crushed the season with McLaren, Albon and Tsunoda scoring 925 points over the course of the season, and our next teammate is going to be Aston, who only scored 8. Disappointingly, has only scored 16 points this year, but Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, both of them are still going strong, so that's at least nice to see. But we will be taking over Aston Martin here. So let's get the new season underway. Now, how are we going to do this season? I'm actually kind of curious because if you consider the fact that McLaren had a car that was basically a championship winning car from day one, I'm wondering what Aston Martin's car is going to be like here. Currently, they are rated, 2 and a sliver. Season objective is 4th, long-term objective is podium contender, and their car performance is 6th. Staff and drivers are apparently their weak points, and I can see that with Palou and Piastri being the drivers in question. So yeah, we're going to confirm this and we'll have a look at it. Could be fun trying to give Piastri his title with Aston Martin, but it's going to be highly dependent on how good we can make the car. We might need to switch out the drivers, but honestly, I think we'll be fine. We are not starting with a lot of money here, so we're going to turn the merchandising down to as little as we can. It's already at its minimum. Race day factory events already also at its minimum. Oh, this season's going to suck. The race day factory events means that we can't make parts during, well, race weekends. It's going to be extra expensive. And that we'll also have 10 additional days where we can't actually manufacture, so that's going to suck. Driver development will be paused. Honestly, we're going to do both for every race weekend. I am not going to be looking at developing talent over the course of just a single season here. While the gains could be good, of course, could be beneficial, I think we need the money more with how low our starting balance is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and confirm that. It's not really going to help us much, later on in the year. We only get 500,000 per, week. So, or rather, race weekend. So it's not perfect or anything like that, but it is a little bit extra money that might become important. And driver control performance. We're going to sacrifice Palou for this one. It's going to suck, though. So yeah, the sponsor obligations here that Aston Martin has to contend with are horrible. That's the best way I can describe it. And as I mentioned here, we're not going to have a lot of money going into this season, so we might actually have to develop the car a bit different than what we would usually do. But yeah, we're going to go ahead with this, and we'll have to see what we end up with here. Financially, again, we're not in a good spot. Let's be honest. Technical, let's see what kind of research they did. Did okay on the suspension here. Basically, did most of what was needed. Just a little bit when you look at everything, but at least the research has been done. Straight up velocity on the underfloor, pretty significant one. Side pods, same. Barely done any research. Rear wing basically cancelled out except for the two most important things: drag reduction and DRS. And front wing, no research, and the chassis just a single research. So Aston Martin has been way worse with their research than what McLaren was in the previous season, and that's going to hurt a bit. So yeah, we'll have to see if we can make something happen there. Wind tunnel testing limit, we should have a lot of hours there, so no big deal. But we are getting less hours this season than we had last season. We're losing about 20 hours of wind tunnel, and CFD we're losing about 1.5 here as well. So bit of a shame that we are losing, that, because it really benefited us to have it, but not much we can do about it. In terms of choosing an engine here, we are going to be choosing the Red Bull powertrain engine, I think. I just don't know. It feels like it's best. But then again, acceleration is the big number. So let's just go ahead and accept that. And, well, the money ticked over there. It said 40 million per second. I was very, very happy mentally. And then it ticked that back down to 11. So we have Palou here, who is decent enough. Has low adaptability, has high in the other stats, so it's necessarily a bad choice. We are going to be putting him on a long run here. Or do we want to do short runs? I think we do long runs here. We need to get his smoothness stat up. And honestly, none of these others are, superior for that. So we need the pace out of cornering reaction and the smoothness. Although of course getting braking up would be nice, getting accuracy up would be nice. Smoothness is just more important in the long term, so that is why we'll be putting him on that. Now, Piastri has actually developed kind of in an insane way, honestly. 83 cornering, 94 braking, 89 reactions. He's up to 19 control. Smoothness is his lowest stat, so we definitely do need to get that up. So I think, honestly, we might put him on the long runs as well. Get that cornering up a little bit, because braking is already really, really high. So we'll put him on long runs. They're going to develop less this year, of course, but I still think that we might be able to snatch Piastri a bit of a title player. And as you can see, he has not had a good run. The 25 season here finished 21st, 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 20th, and then 17th. So yeah, our boy has not had a good time. Let's just put it like that. So with that in mind, let us take a look at the car and what it looks like. If we do the car analysis here, they have a good top speed car. They have a good low speed, medium speed. Honestly, the car is probably a lot better than we give it credit for. Let's say compared to the base Red Bull. So the car is already better than a base Red Bull. That's nice to see. But what we probably want to see here is the McLaren. And we're slightly behind on top speed. We're actually just slightly behind on most of these. So once we get this car min-maxed, it is going to be a very, very good car. And honestly, the thing that's going to limit us here is going to be the financial situation and probably our drivers. So with that said, we are going to start designing car parts here. And before we do that, I need to do one other thing. And that's to go into the finances here and check out the monthly balance. Because, well, I need to know how much money we're getting at the end of each month. We get 4.4 million. So basically that tells me we have about a 15 million budget or so, because we get another 4 million right here. There is some sponsor events here, like driver media appearances, as you can see. That is going to give us a little bit extra money. But generally here, we can assume that we're going to have about 15, 16, 17 million or so that we're going to have to make work until we get to Bahrain. So let us get started here. We are just going to design some of the pieces in the boring way, which means that we're not going to be rushing development for these pieces. We're just going to go ahead and kind of design them normally and just make them once we actually get them done. So first thing here, we're going to make a chassis, decent cornering ability, decent to gain top speed. We do have a lot of cooling here that we can sacrifice, and that's exactly what we're going to do. It's going to take us 30 days to make these normally, and we're just going to go ahead and do this. We're going to get all the projects started, and then we'll distribute our engineers. Because as I said here, we don't have the money to do what I usually do, which is to rush and get a completely new car before the first race. We need to kind of be a little bit clever with it. So let's get the side pods. Let's get the chassis up first, mainly because they are quick to make. That is the main reason. And also because they do give you a decent chunk of basically everything if you sacrifice your cooling. And as you can see, a sacrifice cooling on the side pods as well is just 3%. So we lose about, let's say, just 7% here to be nice. And 72% engine cooling is more than enough. So we're going to be very, very happy with that. Get that under development. And 80%, 80%, 80%. Basically, we're already 80% average on the underfloor. Suspension, it's really focused brake cooling here. But yeah, we're about 75. We're a little bit low on the cornering on the suspension, honestly, about 75% compared to 80. And also on the rear wing, cornering is a little bit on the lower side. So honestly, we do have some options there. Oh no. Never mind, we don't have any options here. We're going to use CFD time, wind tunnel time here on the front wing. And the reason for that is simple. If we look at expertise numbers, this translates to about 66 point... No, is my math off? No, my math isn't off. The number is just so low that I'm getting confused. This translates to about a 66 point something percent. 66, 67% or so of expertise. And if you consider that most other pieces are up to 80. And again, the way you calculate this, you start at 3. The low speed goes from 3 to 5. You take this number, subtract 3, which is 1.33. Split that in 2, which gives us 0.6667. And then you just add percentage, so 67%. And that's very low. And you do the same for this one. It goes from 5 to 7, 70%. And this one's just this number here after the decimal, so 71%. So the front wing here is actually really, really bad at cornering, which is what it should be strong at. And the underfloor in, comparison here, it is the same kind of match, so 1.6 split on 2, 0.8, 80%. It's way higher, so we're going to go ahead and use CFD time on the front wing. It needs it, and the underfloor we're just going to make as is, and that should be fine. So we're going to focus the cornering ability of this front wing, and also probably get the airflow front up a little bit, but honestly, getting the cornering ability up is going to be way more important for us. So we're just going to go ahead and do this with the first CFD period. We're not going to be using this front wing, even though it is already a direct upgrade, even without airflow front. And as you can see, if we do airflow front, it's going to be more of an upgrade. But the idea here is very simple. I want to focus on getting just these 3 stats up a little bit, and sacrificing a little bit of airflow front. But honestly, we might as well just do this. That way we can use it once it's done. And we're just going to do this one normally too, because financially we are not in a good spot. So let's do that. Underfloor is going to be the final thing we make, and here it's just very simple. We maximize anything that isn't airflow sensitivity, minimize weight, and there we go. The underfloor is ready for production. By putting 1 engineer on this, we should be able to manage, to get the underfloors done before the first race. We should be able to get side pods, chassis, underfloor, and front wing ready. So that's what we'll be going for. Because we're using CFD time on the front wing, we want to get it done as quick as possible. 30 days is very much acceptable. And we still have... No, we don't have any more engineers. So that's basically all we wanted to do. So yeah, that's it for the car. We'll have to see what we can do with it. But it does look like we have a very, very promising car already. And potentially going to get Piastri his first title over the course of this season, hopefully. Although it could be a dark horse, but his pace stats compared to Piastri's pace stats just, doesn't leave much hope for him, let's put it like that. Smoothness could be a weakness for both of these drivers, though. Both of them are under 80, so we'll have to see how we manage that. For now, though, we're going to keep on getting closer to the first race weekend, and hopefully we'll be having some good events, and we do actually. So let's just see here if there's any interesting new changes. Albon and Tsunoda still at McLaren. Caceres has taken her seat. Let's see how she develops over the course of the seasons here. Stroll in Alfa Romeo with Russell. Stroll 90. Same as Sainz. That feels weird to say. Norris, Sainz in Ferrari, Magnussen, Drogovic in Alpine, Ocon, Gasly in Alfa Tauri, Show and Schumacher in Mercedes. Schumacher did get himself into Mercedes. Interestingly enough. Porsche and Lawson and Williams, which is actually an interesting lineup. And then we have Crawford and Maloney at Haas. So, are they going to score more than 16 points? That's going to be interesting to see, though, honestly. Now, we did get a good event here immediately, which is to complete the chassis sooner. But it's going to cost us almost $500,000 to do. So, well, it would be nice. We also need financials to make these parts. The chassis, 2 chassis is going to cost us $1 million. Honestly, I think we'll just acknowledge it for now. I don't think we have a need to rush past. I don't think we're really going to be struggling too much this season. So let us go ahead and just acknowledge that, oh, it could have happened quicker, but it won't. I also just realized that I never set up the pit crew. So let's go ahead and have a look here. They're probably overworked at this point. That would not surprise me. Oh my god. Yeah, as you can see, the AI did not handle the pit crew changes very well. Never mind. Our biggest problem this year is not going to be the car or the drivers. It's going to be the pit crew. Look at this. 20% error chance while well rested and 3.3 stop time. 25. Car building, though. There. They're the champions of car building. We might have to spend some financial power here just to sort out the issues. And honestly, at this point, I think we'll just have to eat the fact that it is going to be extremely long pit stop times. Purely due to the fact that 20% pit stop error chance is something we need to get down to at least 10%, I think, before we start worrying about the pit stop time. And even if I wanted to worry about the pit stop time, how much would we lower it? 5,000. So get about 100 each day we focus on it. So let's get that chance of mistake down first, and then we'll work from there. So yeah, I definitely should take a look at this before. It usually pops up for me, but guess I kind of forgot. And as you can see, Andy Stevenson here, he's a good average, let's be honest. But the picker did get that one out a little bit there. Technical Chief isn't the greatest. 36 years old, though, that is plenty of time to develop. Imagine if you played 15 seasons with this man. He would become a monster. And yeah, we're going to have to renew some contracts too, but that's not really a big deal right now. Yeah, I think we might be in a tad bit of trouble here. But for now, let's just get this card assigned, and then we'll take it from there. It's going to be an interesting year, I think, honestly. So chassis design and front wing design are both complete. And with that, we're going to go ahead here and manufacture, for starters, a couple of chassis. That is the design. That is the wrong one. We're going to go ahead and make a couple of chassis here. We're probably going to be using these for the longest time. And it takes 9 days to make a chassis, so they do have a decent factory here. But yeah, we're going to make 2 of those. That's going to cost us 1.1 million, making us even poorer. The front wing here, we're going to go ahead and make, I think, 3 of those. They'll still be usable for the first couple of race weekends. And we're also going to get started on suspension and the rear wing designs here, because we have put safety time into the front wing, but I'd like to get these other 2 pieces up and running as well before we do anything more with that. And even if the suspension isn't really going to give us a huge boost, it's still going to give us a little bit, and that's enough for me. Okay, next up, that rear wing. Put in the top speed, focus, airflow down, weight down, and we could focus on, say, certain types of cornering like high speed, make it more, effective there. But I think we're just going to be very boring here. We're going to focus on top speed. We're going to focus on DRS effectiveness, get both of these up a little bit, and I'm happy with that. But as I said, we can focus if we really, really want to on one of the cornering aspects if we feel the need later on. So we'll just make this rear wing pretty straightforward, pretty simple like that. And in 9 days, or 5 days rather, when the side pods are done, I can actually speed it up a little bit by a day. When the side pods are done here, we'll get started on that final front wing build, if you will. Chassis extended deadline. I don't think you understand. This is kind of spooky. We already have the chassis. We're already manufacturing the chassis. What happens if I press change deadline here? I would assume nothing, because again, it hasn't happened yet. I guess I need to keep extra backup of the save in case some corruption issues happen. I don't expect that, to be fair. But that is a weird event to get. Right here. Front wing design is complete. Well, that is already what happened. It's actually the Munt taking over. No gains, which isn't too surprising. Control for Aaron Dimmond. 90 control. 76 overall. Also an interesting fellow. He's not super quick, but he'll not wreck the car, and it'll be pretty accurate while driving. There's the picker here. I'll just get this sorted real quick, and we'll see if we can maybe get him a little bit better sorted before the start of the season. So here we are. This is what we've ended up with to get that chance of mistake down by 3% over the course of this month. And of course, we're going to have to work on this in coming months as well. But it is what it is. The fact that the pit stop is 3.3 seconds, though, is kind of scary. So we might need to take a look here at after the end of the first race what the other team's pit stops also look like to get kind of more of an idea of what the lay of the land is, so to speak. Side pods are ready here. Let's go ahead and get 2 of them manufactured. Shouldn't actually be a problem. Let's just get 3 of them made. They actually do have decent facilities here. As you can see, we have 5 slots, which is 1 slot more than what we usually have. And if we take a look at the facilities, the factory here is level 4. It is a little bit degraded though, but that's fine. Car parts, suspension sim are both high level as well. For now, though, we're not going to be refurbishing any of this, honestly. And with the exception, probably, of the helipad. Let's get that thing refurbished so we can make a little bit of money. on our first race. Team Hub would be nice to refurbish as well, but honestly, I might as well go ahead and upgrade these two once we get enough money for it. But yeah, the facilities, not the greatest, but it'll get the job done. Now, we also do want to develop that secondary front wing, as mentioned. So let's go ahead and get that set up here. And I'm wondering just how much better this one is going to be than the one that we currently are making. And it looks like it's going to be a decent upgrade, at the very least. This is slightly better. But we'll compare them once they're both done. And we're just going to do the very boring thing here of using engineers. Not speed it up too much or anything like that. We'll have it done by Melbourne anyways. So there's no need for us to spend extra cash right now because we don't need to. Yeah, underflow in 5 days. And after that, honestly, we're just going to save money until research opens up. And then do a bit of researching here for the Aston Martin. I think that's going to be how we want to play this. And did I see that right? Was I blinded? Probably was. I should just upgrade the helipad instead. That's me being a silly goose. Wasted a bit of money on refurbishment rather than upgrading it straight up. That's my fault. But we'll get it upgraded, of course, because money. 14 days to get 2 made, that's fine. We'll put 3 on the cooker. And other than that, I believe we are now caught up on our parts. So let's see what the car looks like once we come to Bahrain compared to our rivals. We'll have 3 new pieces, 4 new pieces on the car. And honestly, while it's not, while it's not perfect, it is the best that we could do with the financial situation we were given. But I think we'll be fine over the course of the next few races here. Get some of that money back. Then we can work from there. So Bahrain Grand Prix, I think we're going to guarantee here 1 driver, top 3, 5 races, gives us 2 million. We lose $500,000 if we fail. Fastest lap, as well as both drivers in Q2 and Q3. Now, we aren't actually getting paid a huge amount of money here, and that's because of the expectation of the team. We're expected to end 4th this year. So while the team finished last, they definitely have some expectations for the new season that needs to be taken into account. So here we go. Let's get the new chassis on. They're going to give us a huge boost to cornering, not a huge boost to top speed, but we'll take that. New front wing as well. As you see, this is still a decent boost altogether, but the new one should be slightly more efficient. Side pods, let's go. Put them on. And lastly, the underfloor. So there we are. Now we're still lacking the rear wing and suspension, of course, but even with this, I think our car should be fairly dominant. And if we take a look here, first in top speed, acceleration, low speed, medium speed, high speed. We're now last in brake cooling, and pretty low on the engine cooling. But again, these stats don't matter too much. They're not important, particularly once they get over 60%. Now, the RS effectiveness, we are a little bit behind the others, but honestly, most cars here are around 80%. If we take a look at McLaren, 83. Look at Ferrari, 75. Red Bull, 81. Yeah, basically, most cars here are around 80%, and it's kind of hard to get it a lot higher than this. So that's perfectly fine. But if you take a look at, say, Red Bull, finished second last year, we're 100 ahead in low speed, same in medium speed, and same in high speed, 150 there. So cornering wise, we have an advantage. We have almost a full kph. We have, better acceleration. They just slightly eke us out in cooling, dirty air, and DRS effectiveness. So the car should be fairly dominant, with the only real difference being, are our drivers good enough to beat their top drivers who has been developing over the last few seasons. But yeah, let's jump to Bahrain, see what we can do. So quali went somewhat interesting here in the sense that we qualified 2nd and 10th here. Palu had kind of the same times every time, about a 129 blank there-ish in both Q1, Q2, and Q3. And Piastri, 128.7, 28.9, 28.5. His best run here in Q3. But Norris did beat him in the Ferrari, and that is kind of interesting to see here. And also the fact that Tsunoda's up there, Albon's up there, the Alfa Romeo's up here. But no Alfa Tauri. They both got knocked out in Q2. And generally here, the times are pretty close. 29 blank to 28.6. There's 6 tenths there difference. But honestly, from 6th to 9th, everyone is doing a 28.8. And if we, remove kind of the outliers here and go 4th to 9th, it's just basically 2 tenths between them at most. Now, this could end up being a bit of an interesting season then. Maybe we don't have as much of a, power roll as we would, because Palou could potentially end up being a troublesome contender where we might struggle to score too many points with him, while Piastri might get a little bit of a challenge from Tsunoda, from Stroll, potentially, Stroll and Russell, as well as the Ferraris. But we'll see how it goes. Quali first race isn't necessarily everything, and as you know, we are still lacking a few parts, but so are our rivals, so it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Now, for this race, we're going to go with a very basic strategy around this track, which is to run your soft tires on light in order to make them last longer. We could, of course, run them standard, but generally running them on light is perfectly fine, and you will end up saving a lot of time doing this. So that is exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to do that for both cars. Although, to be perfectly honest, I might change it up a little bit for Palou, because he is starting 10th, and what I think we might try and take advantage of is the fact that we are starting 10th, and we're just going to start on the medium tire. We're going to burn them down, and by lap 15 we want to have already pitted. So that's going to be the goal here. Put him on a little bit of a different strategy and just have Piastri kind of coast out front. Should be acceptable here. But yeah, let us see how this first race goes. I have big hopes for Piastri. I don't have as many hopes for Palou, because the cars are really, really close to each other. But we'll see what we can do here.
And it's lights out, and away we go.
Turn down risk-taking. Particularly for Palou here, who has not the best starting confidence. One of them is due to being overtaken here. But honestly, he is also starting lower because of the fact that he does not have a good relationship with his engineer yet. So that's going to have a little bit of effect on his driving here. And of course, the fact that other cars that might be on soft tires. But actually, we have a bunch of medium runners ahead of Palou here. That's interesting. Stroll on old softs, so yeah, let's see what we can do here. Piastri's already fallen a little bit behind Norris, but they are pushing their soft tires. We aren't. And we do have drivers that are weak when it comes to managing their tires. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to see if we can still pull something out of the hat with drivers like these. But yeah, we're going to allow this race to kind of run its course here until we get to our first pit stop. And then we'll see if we can start moving up the grid order. So we're getting closer to Palou's pit window here, and he's not really doing an amazing job, I'll be perfectly honest. We haven't really been able to move him forwards. We've been trying to use energy, but it's not really looking like anything is really working. So we're probably going to be pitting him fairly soon. And as you can see it from Magnussen as well, he's had a little bit of an incident and fallen behind the rest of the grid order here. Now, Piastri is basically just switching back and forth here with Norris, which isn't super, good, but it is acceptable currently, and we have definitely taken way better care of our tires than the rest. Sainz also has done a pretty good job here, but tire degradation is still a little bit too high for my liking. But what I do think that we'll do here is get Palou in, not on this lap, but the following, and try and pit him a little bit early and see if we can move him past this DRS train. Because if we look from leader to, 19th here, with the exception of Magnussen, it's still just 17 seconds. They're still basically all running in one fairly lengthy DRS train 15 laps into this race. So many of the cars are fairly equal at the moment, and you can even see both Williams here doing kind of the same thing that we are, jumping in a little bit earlier and getting a new set of tires on. So that's actually very, very interesting to see that they have kind of opted for somewhat of a similar strategy that I'm trying to pull off here. But honestly, it's because they've, used their soft stuff completely. You can see the same here with the Haas driver. So it's not really that surprising that they've opted for pitting early. For Piastri here, the goal now is just to stay out as long as possible. Although, honestly, we might try and be a little bit cheeky here now. As we are getting to the main straight, we're going to deploy. We're going to go full attack now and just use up these tires before we do pit. So that's going to be the goal here. We're going to see if we can create a little bit of a gap to the McLaren of Tsunoda and the two Ferraris there. And if we can't, at least extend the gap to Leclerc a little bit. So let's see how this works. Again, the best thing would be to leave Tsunoda behind here. We do have a cornering advantage that is pretty significant. And creating a little bit of gap here before we pit is definitely preferable. And it looks like we might be successful in doing that. And with 2 seconds there, we're just going to turn it down to neutral. We're going to allow Piastri to use these tires, and we might actually put him on a medium tire for his next stint and just have him burn that. As we see a lot of cars here pitting, including Leclerc, and Palou has actually jumped up right now to behind Leclerc in the grid order. So it is working out for him so far, as he just gets tires of temperature. But we'll see what we do with Piastri. For now, though, he's just going to be allowed to create a little bit of a gap as he burns up the rest of his tires. So we have elected here to switch Piastri over to the medium tire, but we'll have to see if we actually come out ahead of Norris and Albon. Tsunoda had a little bit of incident that put him out of contention, unfortunately, for him. But so far, it's looking good for Palou. He's still running top 10. Didn't really benefit too much from running that medium stint. But with other cars now on those medium tires, he can do a little bit of overtaking, work up the grid order, get that confidence back, and that's going to help him pace-wise too. So I think it's honestly fine what we've done here. For now, we need to chase down Leclerc, and then we're going to see if we can chase down Norris. He's still just 11 seconds behind Piastri, so it's not a big deal or anything like that. And we'll have to see what Piastri can do here too now, as we are planning to just burn these medium tires and probably pit once they hit about 50%. But yeah, let's see what we can do. Palou's looking good. He's caught up to Leclerc. Let's see if we can get by and chase down Pourchaire as well. We are getting closer here to Palou's final pit stop, as we saw Albon there go into the pits just ahead of him. And the same can be said for Piastri. I think we're actually going to be pitting both of them this lap. Piastri has a bit of a gap here. He's probably going to come out where Gasly and Stroll is, to be fair, which isn't amazing. And honestly, we can probably stretch it by a lap or two if we don't want to lose time behind them. But we are going to have to heat up our tires anyway, so it's not really a big deal. We're going to get him in this lap, and we're also going to go ahead and get Palou in this lap, as he's done a good job here and could potentially be fighting for a podium by the end of this if we play our cards right. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do. Currently behind Verstappen, who also is basically about to pit. So I'm curious what we're going to get here in terms of a final result. Norris pits at the same time we do. No one else does, except for, of course, ourselves. And we do come out behind, as expected, Stroll and Gasly with our, extremely slow pit stop here. And Palou comes out just barely ahead of Leclerc, but behind Albon, which also isn't that much of a surprise. Now for Piastri here, if we use a little bit of energy, we should be able to get by. But at the same time, we can expect... We can expect the rest of the pit here, as Piastri has a little bit of an incident. What exactly happened here with him and Stroll?
Now here we are at the final corner. Dangerously close to each other.
Bit of wheel banging, honestly. Piastri might be at fault there. He had space. But luckily for us, no tire damage, no component damage. And I believe it's mostly Stroll that suffered. But we did eat a penalty. Not surprisingly. Not surprisingly. So now Piastri has a little bit of work here now. We need to create the gap, to extend the gap to Stroll, which shouldn't be difficult. Tires are gone there. Sainz needs to pit. We just need to defend against Norris. And honestly, that is somewhat easily done. So I think Piastri will be able to hold out here. The question is just, what can we do with Palou? How high can we get him before the end of this? And we are going to be managing tires probably until, say, lap 50 or so. And then we're going to start pushing. And honestly, right now, I'm kind of happy with the situation we find ourselves in. If we could push a little bit and get in that same DRS train as Leclerc and Albon, that would be more beneficial, of course. But we're not in a terrible spot right now. So we're just going to allow them to manage. And for Piastri here, as mentioned, we are going to have to do a little bit of pushing here so that we're 5 seconds ahead of, in this case, Norris. Let's see what we can do. We're getting close to the end here. Lap 50 out of 57, and Palou is about to try and make a move on Albon, which should be fairly easy here with the help of DRS. And we are just 2.5 seconds behind Verstappen. Slight tire advantage still. It's nothing really too major at this point, but enough I think that we can chase down the Red Bull and maybe even the Ferrari if we're lucky. So we're going to use a little bit of energy here to do our best to not only catch a Red Bull, but also ditch Albon so that we don't lose any time by fighting him, as that would be fairly detrimental to our goals here. If we spend time switching back and forth with Albon, it's going to give us less time to get to Verstappen and then chase down the Ferrari pair. Now, Piastri is currently extending the gap, so we don't really have any big concerns here. The only thing that we might want to try and do is snatch fastest lap, and that's exactly what we'll do. We'll prep the tire, we'll prep fuel, and get everything sorted on this lap. Maybe do another kind of cooldown lap after. But this lap should be enough that we just launch an attack, and then we get that fastest lap. Now, Palu here, I was about to call him Pal, as Pal World, has actually been good enough here to get by Verstappen, but there's 5 seconds now up to the cars in front. And with how little time there's left of the race here, I think we can go full attack. Degradation should be kind of kind to us. We could probably start a lap earlier. But yeah, we should have enough deg here that it's not really a big problem to go attack, push a little bit, and start hunting down the Ferraris. Verstappen might overtake us here with help of the DRS. And if it doesn't, we should be fine to just start attacking and going full after the Ferrari pair. Looks unfortunately like that was not the case. And we're going to save energy here. If the RS isn't enough to get it done on Verstappen here, we'll go ahead and push a little bit more on the main straight. But yeah, there we are. We did snatch fastest lap. Conserve for a little bit here, just get that back up to a positive. And then we'll run standard for the last few laps here. 130.5 fastest lap. And we've had another incident where cars have crashed. What happened?
Is that Yuki Tsunoda?
Tsunoda not having a good time here in the McLaren. Basically, kind of run off the track there, but there also wasn't really room to attack from behind, so I don't know how you'd judge that one. But definitely not a good race here from the McLarens. They were looking really, really good in quali. They haven't been able to capitalize. But unfortunately for Palu here, it just looks like he will not be able to catch the Ferraris at this pace. But I'd be happily surprised here. But if not, let's just skip to the end. So Palu here is getting very close. Just a second up to Sainz and then another second up to Norris. We are pushing and we'll be given one DRS zone here really to attack. This is the final lap, unfortunately, and looks like that just was not enough to get the job done while putting him up to aggressive. But honestly, it's a pretty good showing here. I did not expect us to get at this level, but
He's got the win.
On a positive note, Piastri wins. We get 4th. The Ferrari's looking dangerous. But honestly, I think there's so many teams that are scoring points here that Piastri might be enough to win this season on its own. We'll have to see, though. It would be an interesting challenge. It has been noted. But we can actually have a look at that at the end of this year, see if Piastri does score enough points to pull that off. But he did win with fastest lap here. And if you look at it from like a one-car challenge, well, it's not going to work really, is it? Because, well, these boys scored more points than Piastri. But it's a good start to the season. 1-4 for us, 2-3 for the Ferraris, 5th and 8th for the Red Bull. We have Alfa Romeo, we have the McLaren, we have a surprising Mercedes, and then we have Gasly in the Alfa Tauri. So, bit of a weird distribution of points, honestly. I would expect Tsunoda to score points if he hadn't had the incident. Same can be said for Stroll, actually. So, yeah, bit of a weird start to the year. Construction stand, we lead 5 points down to Ferrari. We have a huge gap down to Red Bull. And honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing how this season develops. But this was the curious one, the pit stop times. So top 10 here, as you can see, about 3 seconds, 2.5 for Red Bull, 2.7. So I think the actual pit stop is probably 2.680, something around there. Maybe 2.650. But that's a lot quicker than us, basically by 7/10. But most teams, they aren't doing super quick pit stops, which, to be fair, was a complaint that we had when the game first released, that everyone was doing sub 2-second pit stops. But they might have hit the nerf hammer a little bit too hard there, but it's still fine. We did hit our goals though, so we're getting money. But as mentioned, I don't think we're going to be developing this car that much until we get to research. And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how the car is going to look. I think what we're going to be seeing here as the season progresses, if we end up doing several more teams, I would like to do all of them before 24 releases, but we'll have to see what we have time for. I think we'll be seeing the grid get closer and closer as time passes because we won't have any more big regulation changes unless they added some later on to shake things up. And it's going to be interesting to see just how close the grid ends up by the end of this. Yeah, wind tunnel data concern. Sure, I'll approve your investigation. Not a big deal. Have to wait for the suspension and the rear wing, but it's not really a big deal at this point. It's gonna arrive now after Saudi Arabia, but again, not a big deal. We can live with it. Now, with that in mind, let's actually just jump directly to Saudi Arabia. We're gonna get the helipad upgrade before we go there, but that's just gonna be one of those nice little things. We're going to have the second ATR period start as well, which we probably are going to invest into a car part, most likely suspension is what I'm thinking. But we'll deal with that once we actually get there. For now, let's just speed things along. We also do have to set up a new pit crew training, and it's going to be the same that we have been doing, where we are just focusing a little bit on developing that or getting down that error chance. Cornering gains for both boys, that's acceptable, and the helipad upgrade is now level 5. But yeah, we'll be trying to get this error chance down as low as possible, so I'll just get that sorted real quick. So this month we're going to be able to get that error chance down by another 2%, but with 3.4 second estimated pit stop time, we might want to start focusing on that a little bit. And honestly, we might starting next month, we're at 14%, get this down to maybe 3 seconds or so. I think that would be acceptable, while maintaining the error chance where it is. I think that's just going to have to be how we do things. And if we take a look here, we can actually have a look at this later on, compare a little bit. But yeah, 4.5 seconds or more, 2 seconds. I think we'll be hard pressed to get any of those done. But yeah, we're gonna get the new aerodynamic period in just a few days here, and then we'll be doing CFD for the suspension. So we'll just get that underway. And I probably should go into the warehouse here and start manufacturing some extra parts before I forget. So let's get that done. We're fine with just those front wings for now, honestly. Let's get an extra side pod. Let's get an extra underfloor. That should be us kind of caught up on parts there, although we're already making one, so no big deal there. That is that underfloor that we were making, so let's just go ahead and make another one. I could, of course, extend the project, but it's just easier to do it like that. But yeah, aerodynamic testing period starts. We are going to do the suspension, as I mentioned, so we'll have to wait until the temporary shutdown is over. Then we can get that done. We're already making a suspension, so we'll be making another one in 14 days after that is done, which means the next thing on our list is going to be Saudi Arabia. So let's just jump straight in. Qualifying for Jeddah went quite well, and we have a very, very close top 3 here, which means the Red Bulls are getting into this fight. As you can see, Piastri 743, 746. It's just 3,000 between Piastri and Leclerc. Then we have Verstappen with a 788, so half a tenth behind. Tsunoda, less than a tenth. And then we have Palou, who actually had a really, really good run here in his second run. So, surprising 5th place, I dare say. But yeah, the McLarens are strong, the Red Bulls are strong. Not as strong here from the Alfa Romeos, the Alfa Tauris, but at least it's good to see the McLarens probably will be giving us some fight this season. Now, the plan here for strategy is probably going to be a light soft and then a hard tire. I think that is the best play. We do light soft onto a medium, honestly. I think that might work out for the best here. We'll be pitting very late doing this, so potentially we might want to turn this around, that we're aggressive on a medium to start off with, or we, burn the soft a little bit, maybe run the medium light. That too could be a play. Basically, we pit earlier. But I think this is going to work out just fine. It's going to be a little bit more of a boring strategy compared to what we usually do, but it should get the job done. Unfortunately, Piastri doesn't actually have an extra set here. So for him, we're going to put him on the hard tire initially, just have him push, and then we'll go on to the medium tire towards the end. And that'll work just fine for him as well. Honestly, it might actually be better to do that for Palou here as well. Go full attack and then onto a medium. And in theory, it is going to be a little bit quicker. It's going to be a little bit weaker at the start of this stint, of course. Excuse me. But it should be better towards the end. So it'll be a little bit boring and just do this. Should allow us to be quite aggressive initially. And degradation around this place should be low enough. Well, it is Jeddah. Degradation is generally high. But degradation on the hard should be low enough that this is still doable. Even with the lower smoothness of Piastri and Palou. So we'll give this a go. It's going to give me a good kind of pointer as well to how aggressive we can kind of do with the tires. So those are basically two reasons why we're doing this. But yeah, let's jump into the race here and see what we can pull off.
Drivers are lined up. It's almost time for the Saudi Arabian
So soft
Grand
tires, medium tires, we are the only hard runners.
Prix. Lights out, and away we
And that
go.
is going to make things somewhat interesting here.
We don't need to take any risks.
But I still believe that we'll have a good chance. We will probably lose out a little bit at the start of the race here. And then I do believe we're going to get those places back, as Palou now is already having a little bit of a strife here with Albon, which, again, is not too surprising. Albon is pushing as well. He has a tire advantage, and that does play out in his favor. Piastri, however, was able to hold onto that first place, and hopefully we can keep this going until we pit. But right now, it does look like we might have a little bit of competition from the Red Bulls, from the McLarens, and that is nice to see. Let's see how this season develops as we are done now with the first lap. Hopefully we can hold on until we get to that first pit stop. As we are getting closer and closer to that first pit stop of ours, we can kind of start seeing the pecking order here a little bit for Jeddah. Piastri is leading and running alongside both McLarens, and 4 seconds down, we find both Red Bulls, and then we have Palou even further down the order, but he was actually one place further down as Russell has already pitted, so it's not really representative. He's currently running 7th or basically 8th fastest, so he's still struggling a little bit. But Piastri is definitely giving good fight here from the McLarens, and we have just straight up been unable to kind of leave them behind. As Tsunoda will have to pit here fairly soon, same for Leclerc, Verstappen. A lot of these cars will be pitting relatively soon, and for the most part, there isn't going to be too much traffic for them. Basically, Leclerc here, as you can see, he is pitting. He's going to come out in, honestly, a pretty clean window here. It's just going to be with Russell, who has already pitted. And then we have Schumacher and Crawford, I believe. And they're both going to be getting out of the way as well. So pitting right now isn't a terrible idea. And honestly, it's probably something that we should be doing for both of our cars as well. So we're going to go ahead here, get Palou and Piastri in, get them on the medium tires. And that should be fairly acceptable here. Now, we don't have complete freedom of a tire strategy because we simulated practice and quali, which is something that I do when I feel like we are in a pretty dominant position. And honestly, I think we still are in a fairly dominant position here. But even then, limitation on tires is going to make this also a little bit more challenging because I would really prefer to have a fresh set of softs here. But as you can see, Piastri comes out in 8th in a very, very nice window. And unfortunately for Palou here, he comes out behind Norris, Stroll, Sainz. He's definitely lost out a lot from pitting late. But Piastri won out. Leclerc has kind of won out here. He came out ahead of Tsunoda. So it's a little bit of a shame. We should probably have jumped the gun earlier with Palou. But we'll still be trying to, of course, move him forwards towards the end of this race. Let's see what we can do. So latest here, Piastri is still being hounded by Tsunoda. Albon is 5 seconds down the road, but on a soft tire. And what we've actually elected to do here is something that we do quite often when we end up being unable to get away from the car we're running with, in this case Tsunoda. And that is just turning the tire down to light, save as much of it as we can, while still staying within DRS, saving kind of fuel and energy. And then basically doing an attack towards the end of the race. And that's what we're going to do here. Piastri already has P confidence, so he should still be pretty quick. Albon might catch up, but honestly, 17 more laps for these softs is going to turn him into shreds. So I'm not really scared of him. Russell in 4th is doing well, but Palou here is going to probably struggle to get much higher than 10th. We're still going to give it a go, though. 17 laps to go. Let's see if we can get him a little bit further up the timing table here. Palou has caught up to the back of the order here and just passed Stroll, currently hunting Russell, who's fallen to 8th here. And as you can see, with 8 laps to go here, we do have potentially for getting up to 5th place, which is very qualified. He is in the same train, but that is going to require a little bit of micromanagement here to pull off, I think. But currently, we're just kind of pushing fuel, we're pushing energy, still saving the tires slightly because we can't really, use them much here to gain position. It's going to be detrimental for later, as Palou does a very nice move there on Russell. But yeah, what we're going to do is basically just switching back between using fuel, using energy, and then conserving while running in the DRS strain. And I think that is going to be the best thing that we can do. Maybe even turn the tires down to light, although that does leave us a little bit exposed. It is the best way that we can kind of manage Palou here in a way that will get him a few more points for the team. So we're going to try and keep this going. There's 3 more cars ahead. I don't think we're catching Norris, but Verstappen might be within distance here. Piastri's still doing good. We have Albon catching up as he's already down to 50% on his tires. We have a 7%, 8% now tire advantage for Piastri, which is going to be very, very important later on. So honestly, at this point, things are looking very, very favorable for us. Let's see if we can turn this into a good result for both cars. We've just given Palou here the go-ahead to attack. And a DRS train is kind of hard to attack from. But over the course of this next lap, with full energy, with full everything, I think we can make something happen. And we're also going to go ahead now and turn him up to at least aggressive to see if we can get something more out of it. Now, as I said, Albon's tires are running out, and they are going to be pretty detrimental for him towards the end. He is now losing time after gaining up until this point. So the winner is going to be a straight up fight between Piastri and Tsunoda. And as mentioned here, we're just taking care of our tires, taking care of energy right now in order to give us the best opportunity that we can. As Palou now is getting maybe one of the Red Bulls, although they are kind of blocking the track, and honestly, they're just straight up protecting each other. And that is making an overtake very, very difficult. So, yeah, Palou might struggle a little bit here, but he does finally get Leclerc. And with that, we're going to turn things down just a little bit again here and try and get Verstappen before the end of this race. So that's going to be the plan. I think we can do it, but with 3 laps remaining, could be a little bit tricky. Honestly, we also do need to chase down Sainz, who's actually gotten away. So, while slightly risky here, we are going to go full attack. Honestly, once we get to the DRS zone, the final DRS zone, we are currently in one. That's the second one here, and then the final one should be a good place to start going full attack with just 3 laps remaining. Tires should just about manage it, I think. So, this is where we get started with that. Neutral should honestly be enough here to get him going. He is already kind of ahead. And honestly, we were actually just a little bit too ahead there, as the Red Bull ended up getting DRS instead of us. But I still think we can make that work. The key now is actually going to just get Piastri going. And as mentioned, we do have a lot of tire. I think we can, at the end of this lap, before we do enter the DRS zone, we're just going to turn Piastri up here now and go full attack, push the extra fuel that we have, and also add in a little bit of a deploy. And that should make it so that now we just straight up fly by Tsunoda. Because even if he saved, a little bit of resource here, we should still get by him. Couldn't get it done there on the first one, so we take him in the corner. That works. Piastri is now ahead. For Palou, I keep on calling him Pal, not saying the full name. It's very disrespectful and mean. I'm sorry. But yeah, Palou here is doing well as well, up into 6, trying to chase down Sainz, but with 2 laps remaining, that's probably a little bit too tough of an ask. Piastri, on the other hand, has already almost gotten a full second on Tsunoda, and if he keeps on pushing for one more lap, which would be the final lap, I'm pretty sure he will be get outside of DRS range as well, so he's doing a very, very good job here. But yeah, it's been a fairly interesting race, and judging by kind of how close it is still, I think we can argue here that we're going to have a little bit more of a fight this year. We have the McLarens that we, of course, played last year, being very, very close. We have the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. They have been able to kind of maintain what they were doing. As Palou actually does get within DRS range, potentially, for this final lap, which means that we are going to have to go all in to get Sainz, who has run his tires below the 30% mark, which is, the real kind of drop-off. And if he pushes now to defend, that's going to hurt him quite a bit. Now, Piastri should be safe here. He is going into the final DRS zone. We'll just deploy. And meanwhile, Palou has actually gotten past Sainz. So we're up to 5th, which was kind of what we hoped for. I do kind of want to see that overtake though, so we'll take a quick look. And basically just DRS there helps us to just fly by So we'll take that. Piastri wins. Palou is going to come in here in 5th place unless he has some really, really bad luck here. But yeah, we'll take that. 2nd and 3rd from the McLaren still means, as mentioned, that they're going to be quite dangerous. But it looks like we also will have a fight from the Ferraris, Red Bulls. And as they too get more upgrades, they're going to be even more dangerous. So yeah, it looks like we might actually have a very interesting season on our hands. Piastri is leading the Drive Championship here now after pulling 2 wins in 2 races with fastest laps for both. And, well, Palou here is still doing a good job in 4th. McLaren's did a way better job here than they did at the first race. And then the Constructors now, they move up ahead of Red Bull and Alfa Romeo. So, as mentioned, we'll have to see where it stabilizes. But currently, it looks like potentially we have 3 teams in for the running. But of course, depending on how the AI upgrade their car, that could change very, very quickly. Now, before we go into Australia, we're going to have a few things that we need to deal with. Mainly the sign that is coming through in just a few days. The front wing. The upgraded front wing. Then we have a suspension and a rear wing design, which should kind of complete the car. We're probably going to make another suspension design, though. Maybe. We'll see. I am a little bit undecided on what we want to do with that. We do have, as mentioned, another CFD period. But we are going to use it for some sort of design. Now, the front wing here isn't a huge upgrade. As you can see, compared to the current one, we kind of have more high speed. Did I... make a mistake? I know that there was a mistake at one point, but I don't think it was here. Sorry, I'm getting the 2 saves confused. It was on the maximum weight one. So this one's better at low speed, medium speed. Loses a little bit on the high speed, but that's fine. So we can probably use this, honestly, and we're going to go ahead and make 4 of them. Just like that. And other than that, as mentioned, we are probably going to want to use the CFD period that we have on suspension. It's the other thing, other than the front wing, that was kind of lacking. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. It's the easiest way to do things. And with the expertise levels that we are at, I think it's better to develop the car through research rather than designs. And that's kind of what we are going to be doing this year as well. Throwing in low stock, that's fine. We're making a bunch new ones for Australia. Stallard has gone up to an 89 performance. And we also got our suspension up and running. So this one, 2010, 06, we lose a little bit of brake cooling, but that's fine. And apparently, yeah, I made a huge mistake. As you can see, -1 there on the total extra weight. Did I make a light suspension? The thing... yeah, I did. I'm sorry, my headspace is not really in the correct place here. I was going through some comments before I was recording this, and some of them mentioned the fact that I made an error in the maximum weight one, but this isn't the maximum weight one. I can use as little weight as I want. And that is kind of messing me up a little bit. Sorry about that, but we'll get that sorted. But yeah, we are going to do the suspension here. I just think that is the best play. And honestly, it looks already like a good play just looking at these numbers with the CFD investment here. So yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to make another one after this. And financially now, we're actually in a position where we can actually rush this one. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to cost us 2 million. We still have a lot of money. And we might just temporarily manufacture these ones. But let's face it, it's going to take us 36 days. We'll have them by the time we get to Imola. So yeah, and we're not going to be able to use them for Melbourne either. So 2 races where we skip it. That's acceptable. We might make 3 of them just so we can use them at the other races. But it's still going to be a little bit of a cost investment then. Again, 36 days is due to the fact we need to run this twice. So it should still be okay. But yeah, sorry for my confusion there for a little bit. I, again, was just thinking that I made a mistake on the extra weight. But of course, this isn't the maximum weight save, so I can do whatever I want with it. My mind played the trick on me there. Apologies. But yeah, in 3 days, we're going to get the new rear wing, which we will not be which we will not be using in Australia. But it should be making our car more complete. So there it is. Pretty decent upgrade. And honestly, someone's already toppled us off the top speed throne. This is going to give us the best DRS in the championship, along with the worst ODI tolerance. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and make 4 of these. They should get the job done as well. All right. With that now, I think we're fine. We don't really have anything in particular that we need to get done. I just need to get cooled down a little bit so my brain actually works. But yeah, we are ready now to just jump into the Australian Grand Prix. But before that, we're going to go into the warehouse, and we are going to be replacing these front wings. Although high-speed cornering is the best around Australia, so we might actually wait with these. Honestly, I'm a little bit unsure what I've done with the sliders. I need to double check it that I haven't been, heat stroking when I was setting up these sliders, because it kind of looks like I was, just judging by the fact that we have so much positive numbers, and it seems like I was not. Yeah, the best thing we could have probably done with this front wing would be to do this, so it does a little bit of everything. Yeah, not really anything we can really do with the slider set. It's just, as mentioned, being heat stroking out a little bit. But we'll actually just start using the front wing. It's fine. The low speed cornering and the medium speed cornering is harder to come by anyways, so we'll take that. It's probably not the best track, as mentioned, to start using a new front wing, but we're still gonna make it work. So I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. Now we're gonna go ahead to race week so we can compare the car at the 3rd race of the season. Just take a quick look, and currently, as mentioned, someone has knocked us off the top speed throne, which is actually a little bit surprising. It is not Ferrari, it is McLaren, and they beat us by 0.01. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. But we still have a pretty huge cornering advantage, so I'm not too worried. I think we can still make things happen here. And with that in mind, we're just going to quickly prep here, finish position, car on the podium. Piastri is having a bit of resurgence here, so I'm not too concerned. And we'll just say both cars into Q3. We need to kind of secure money rather than gamble high at the moment. So let's go to Australia, see if we can replicate another win for Piastri. Australian quali came with a little bit of an upset here. Bad runs from Piastri in Q2 and Q3 allows Palou here to line up in front. He's 5th, and we have both McLarens kind of ahead of our drivers. So it is unfortunate, but let's be honest here, 255 is not good enough to beat Tsunoda. He would have been on the front row anyways, most likely, and we'll just have to make do with what we have. Now, we do have extra soft tires available for this race, because soft tires are just amazing around here. So we do have a little bit of an advantage in that regard. We can do a soft here onto a medium, give us about a 6-second save compared to the initial strategy, 5 seconds quicker than this one. But let's be honest, this one can be modified to be a lot better. Let's say that we want to start on the hard tire instead and go full attack and then do a standard medium. It is doable, makes it around 9 seconds quicker potentially, which as you can see is faster than this strategy. So honestly, this might be the better option available to us. But what I think we might do here is something akin to a 2-stopper. Let's see what we can do with that. If we can make it quick enough. I kind of doubt it, honestly. But we could do something where we do a medium initially, kind of do push it all the way, hit early, and then we do a couple of soft tires to kind of do something a little bit different here. And again, I'm kind of experimenting with new strategies as well while we do this save, because it is fun that way. And this does give us enough tire that we can kind of attack a little bit towards the end. But is it going to be quicker? Not really. It's about 2 seconds slower. But keep in mind, this way we are using every part of the tire. We don't really have any flexibility. And with this, we can run full attack towards the first stop here, take it a little bit easy on the tire, and then run full attack towards the end, and do the same here with the second stop. We also have more medium to go on if we feel the need. So honestly, we're going to try a two-stopper here. Probably not the, most common strategy, but one that I think we can pull off to good effect here. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see what we can pull off. It should be good to pit around here. There we are. And we'll just be using Piastri as our kind of measuring stick there for strategy. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit interesting here to see if this aggressive strategy on the mediums is going to pay off or not. And hopefully we can make the two light soft stains work. But this might be a race where we end up just barely on the podium. But yeah, let's see how this goes. Australian Grand Prix, a little bit different strategy. Hopefully we can still have a good one. And if we take a look here, soft tires, mediums. Further towards the back, more soft tires, which is good to see. Terrible stance there from one of the Williams. But Palou has a acceptable start here, I believe. But he still does lose out of position to the McLaren, which isn't terribly surprising. I'm now running third and fifth with both McLarens up front. So we could be, as mentioned, be facing a little bit of a challenge here. But even so, I think we will prevail. One on the soft, one on the medium. Let's see what they can do. And as mentioned, further towards the back here, there are more soft runners, which should make the early pit stop a little bit more viable. But we'll see what we can do. A red flag around here can very well happen, and it could really, really also mess up our strategy. But nothing really can do with that right now. For now, just sit back, relax, see if we can manage this until the first pit stop arrives. And as we are used to, there is a yellow flag here as Verstappen has a bit of a moment there with the Mercedes. Runs a little bit wide, then we have some wheel banging. Nothing too serious there. It is what it is. It does happen. But for our race, we have some kind of interesting news here as Piastri has fallen down to 7th place. And honestly, it's struggling a little bit as my game is lagging just ever so slightly. But we are getting now to a point where we do want to pit. I had to ignore 3 times there. A little confusing. But yeah, Palou here is keeping up somewhat with the McLarens, but it is costing him in tire wear. Tire wear is more than anticipated, which is a bit of a problem. But nothing really can do with that. And in terms of the cars here, for the most part, as you can see, they are basically all still a very, very big DRS train here, down until 15th place, just 7 seconds behind Tsunoda. And in terms of the pit stops here, time consideration, 19 seconds. It would be amazing if we could get out ahead of Crawford here and Maloney. It's so weird seeing these names that it doesn't just come to me naturally, which is sad. It would be amazing to come out ahead of them. So what I think we do here is that we push for at least one more lap. And then we might just do a double pit stop on the next lap. Although, let's be honest here, our drivers are incredibly close to each other. So that isn't really recommended when we have 3.5 second pit stop time. So we might just have to have one man run an extra lap. In that case, it will most likely be not Piastri, but Palou. As Palou might be able to get out ahead of the Haases if we do. So yeah, maybe we get lucky, maybe we do not. We're going to get Piastri in now, and he's going to come out behind the Haases, of course. But he should come out ahead of virtually everyone else. Does have the pit stop error though, 8.6 seconds. That is going to hurt long term.
How's the tire?
And we are now going to get Palou in for his stop. So yeah, not the best pit stop there from Piastri, but it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with it. And you can already see that we're losing a lot of time right now to the McLarens. So it might be a little bit too strong for us here, but once we get that revving upgrade, once we get that proper suspension, we might be able to make something happen. And unfortunately, because we have such slow stops, we do come out behind the Haases, but we have energy here, and I think we should be able to sneak by them with relative ease. They have an older soft and an older medium, so we should still be able to, just kind of slide by. That's at least going to be the hope. And unfortunately, because of Piastri's slow pit stop, Gasly comes out ahead of him, and Piastri is going to have a lot of cars to overtake here, but we're just going to have to make the best out of the situation. So unfortunately here, it looks like our strategy is not going to pay off, as Palou has used his entire tire, if you will. We are going to be putting him onto a fresh one, but he is going to be coming out very, very far behind. And the same it can actually be said for Piastri. He's kind of been stuck in this DRS train. He hasn't really been able to make any headway. And that has kind of been the story of this kind of race for us. We're going to be running standard, I think. Honestly, we should run light. But yeah, that's kind of been the story for the race for us. We tried to be a little bit cheeky with A2 stopper. It did not pay off because we've just been stuck behind other cars. And honestly, it's just been pretty miserable due to that. However, if we look at the cars ahead of us here, we have at least one car, two cars that are going to have to pit. So we should be getting at least 2 places back. But getting both cars into the higher points here is going to be pretty challenging. This could kind of open up the championship a little bit, at least until Baku, when we do get every single one of our upgrades on the car. And honestly, I'm looking forward to this. This might be a very, very interesting season. But for now, we're just going to allow this race to run its course here and see if we might just be able to turn it around a little bit. We can always hope. We aren't too far behind the DRS train here, just 13 seconds or so. So potentially here, we could get up to 5th place maybe. Piastri, 20 seconds though. That's going to be a little bit too much to ask, I think. And if we look at the last lap times, we're running 20.1s. They're running basically around the same. We're not gaining enough per lap here to make it worth it. And honestly, we probably can't run the tires on light. We're kind of running them a little bit too cold. So we'll be turning them up to standard. And hopefully that'll be enough to, as mentioned, maybe get us to Norris. But there is another DRS train with 3 cars ahead of us that we need to manage before that. So we might straight up be out of the points here. Let's see what we can do, though. As Piastri is now challenging Lawson for 15th place here. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit challenging. Hopefully we can still get something out of it. With 10 laps to go here, Palou has made his way up into 11th and is chasing points here versus both Alpines, which can be a little bit challenging in the DRS train, but we are recharging, and honestly, once we do get to the other end of this DRS sequence, we probably are going to try and launch a little bit of an attack here. Getting past one, Alpine should get us past both, so if we can clear one, that should be good enough. And honestly, we might actually do it here into the corner. And we kind of are, so that should honestly be both Alpines cleared, and at least a couple of points there from for our team. In a race that sees Ocon currently running as a front runner, and that could still get fairly interesting here. We have a little bit of a tire advantage, but honestly, we're probably going to wait at least 1 or 2 laps before we go aggressive. But yeah, currently, it's not looking very good for Piastri. It's still 5 seconds down. Honestly, we probably need to run aggressive with him here to have any chance of getting into a point scoring position. And we're just going to do the same with Palou, honestly. It's 8 laps. We're going to do a little bit of pushing, and hopefully that will be enough that we can, in Palou's case, get Sainz. In Piastri's case, maybe get both Alpines. Let's see what we can do here. And just a lap after that, we have an incident here with a yellow flag.
Here, and that's trouble for the Red Bull.
Verstappen with another incident involving a Mercedes. Not having a good race in this one, and that's a little bit worse for wear. That is wheel banging and a front wing that suffers some damage. Yeah, not very happy after that incident, but Palou here, I'm just going to start calling him Pal, and it's just going to have to be that way. But Palou is now in a position where he can start fighting the Williams, and he can start fighting the Red Bull, who both actually just step out of the... They both stepped out of sequence there, and with 5 laps to go, and a safety car, we are going to stay out. We are going to play it safe here. Piastri would potentially be able to get fresh tires, maybe. Yeah, let's see here. Piastri has 10 seconds to Lawson, 13 to... Yeah, it's not enough. We're going to lose at least 2 places doing this. But if you look at it from another perspective, fresh tires could be the difference here. It is still 5 laps, though. I believe Albon has crossed the timeline. Has he? No, it's right there. So 4 laps? I think we just stay out. We play very, very safe here. We stay out. We gamble with Piastri. We allow Palou to stay where he is. And we get Piastri onto a fresh set of tires. Hopefully the pit stop won't be too terrible. But we shouldn't be losing out too much by just pitting Piastri. That's going to be the kind of hope here. Let's see exactly what happened, because that was the
You are
other
then at
Red
the
Bull with
11th
Leclerc,
corner.
and that's
Barely
us.
any room to maneuver. Has to be said, that was pretty
Went a
risky.
little bit too aggressive, and the Williams is just straight up out. Okay. That might very well be a penalty for Leclerc as well, so we might not lose as much as we fear here.
Delta positive.
And it is not a clean stop, so
Focus on keeping
yeah,
temperature
that means
in
Leclerc
brakes
is
and
out
tyres.
ahead of us. And for Piastri, it does beat Gasly out, which is the important one. So it's not all terrible. It's just a shame though that we did have that error that didn't let us, get out ahead of Leclerc. And yeah, I think we did make the correct choice here by not having Palou pit. Could we see some stupid or rather weird pit stops from the AI here potentially? But yeah, Palou does have an advantage now. He could potentially challenge through the field a little bit if we're lucky. But yeah, Leclerc on fresh tires ahead of us. It's not a boon we needed. And we might even have gotten out ahead of Lawson if we didn't have that safety car. But yeah, it is what it is. Sometimes they go your way, sometimes they go the other way. For now though, we're just going to have to allow the safety car to kind of settle. And then see exactly how many laps we kind of get here. That's going to be the important part. It's going to be 1 lap. It's going to be 2 laps. Currently, we're in 3 laps to go. Is the safety car going to come in on this one? It is.
Safety car ending.
And with that, we now have 2 laps to race. Science is on very old mediums.
Use overtake at part throttle.
A lot of car set is on very old mediums, and we have fuel, we have tires. We can just go full deploy, full attack till the end. But let's be honest here, everyone else is going to do the same. So that does not necessarily mean we'll be able to score some points. It could very well mean that we're going to have a very, very sad ending to this one. So let's see here. Palou in 7th. Race restarts. Chasing after Ferraris. And if I'm not mistaken, we're not going to be getting any DRS here. It's just going to be done purely on track. But as mentioned, Sainz is not going to have a good time. And Piastri is going to have to struggle with, as mentioned, Leclerc. If Leclerc wasn't in the way, I think Piastri would probably be able to get up into the points. So it's a little bit unfortunate. But we are definitely putting some pressure on Sainz. He's falling a full second behind on this first lap. And Piastri did clear Leclerc. But probably not going to be enough here, unfortunately. As he also gets Schumacher. Can he clear 2 more cars is going to be the big question here. And as I said, if he had another lap to do it on, probably. But since he doesn't, it's probably not going to be very likely. We should also have done this, put them both on high overtake aggression before this, to be fair. But better late than never. And that is going to allow Palou to get Sainz, most likely. And meanwhile, Piastri has actually got himself up into the points. Shame that I didn't pay attention to that.
Right then,
Let's see what Piastri did.
Now there's the car of Piastri.
Okay, so he just gets him into the corner with more speed, more grip. And while this is a very unfortunate result, 6th and 10th, it's a good recovery after getting stuck in the DRS train. And as mentioned, Ocon there is even on the podium. So it could be a sign of things to come here that we'll have a little bit of a challenging season. Of course, as I mentioned here, the strategy wasn't the best. The pit stops in particular did screw Piastri over on 2 occasions. But even then, let's say the 5th and 6th maybe would have been the best we could have hoped for. So going for the 1-stopper would definitely have been a better strategy overall. It is what it is though. 1-2 for McLaren, which is going to make them very dangerous in the championship. Ocon with a podium from Alfa Tauri, meaning showing that they're still not out. Alfa Romeo in 4th. And yeah. Looks like we still haven't given up on our old boys here. Drivers' Championship, Piastri is still in the lead, but Albon is getting there, just 6-7 points behind. And in the Constructors now, McLaren is a single point behind us, so we definitely need to pull ourselves together here. And hopefully Baku is going to be kind of the turning point when we get a couple of new parts. But it could also just be a full stop. Could be very well be here that McLaren is going to give us a close fight all season, which would be fun. But I won't have my hopes up until we're done with Baku, which unfortunately we'll have to wait until next time. as I spent a little bit too much time getting through these 3 races and getting the car up and running. I blame my brain a little bit because, as I said here, Norway has been pretty hot. It's been a little bit cooler now today, but my brain definitely has not been having a good time with all the heat. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time when we hopefully will have a little bit more competition here, judging by the fact that we are 3 teams here within just 13 points of each other. So it's looking promising. Let's see what we can do. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.